This is the Flabbergasted Podcast, where we just can't believe you haven't seen it. Every episode, we discuss a movie that one of us has seen and the other hasn't. Follow us on Instagram at FlabberPod and subscribe in your podcast app of choice. I'm your host, Rogge. Let's get to it. Today, we are discussing the 2020 film Concrete Cowboy. Concrete Cowboy stars Caleb McLaughlin, Jarrell Jerome, and our guy Idris Elba. It was directed by Ricky Staub, a director I've never heard of, and is based on the novel Ghetto Cowboy by Greg Neary. Concrete Cowboy. Sent to live with his estranged father for the summer, a rebellious teen finds kinship in a tight-knit Philadelphia community of black cowboys. This is also our second entry in Two Very White People Discuss a Very Black Movie. I guess Django Unchained, a very black movie is probably not fair, but it obviously is very explicitly touching on the topic of race and race relations. Jess, had you ever heard of Concrete Cowboy before I suggested it?
I maybe heard of it, like just barely, but I didn't know anything about it.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Have you seen Stranger Things?
Yeah, so I was going to ask, the kid, Cole, is from Stranger Things, yes?
Yes.
What's his name in that?
Like
is
right
it
when it came out
Lucas?
because we were like, oh, we're excited for it.
What's his name in Stranger Things? Is it Lucas?
It is Lucas.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep. So we can definitely get some Stranger Things references in here. Hopefully, we're just going to assume that that's a demographic that overlaps with our listenership. I think it probably is, given that, at least for now, a good chunk of our listeners are going to be people that were subscribed to a Harry Potter podcast. And so I think there's overlap there.
Yes, for sure.
So Concrete Cowboy, I saw in 2020 around when it came out. We were kind of excited for it. We were like, oh, Idris Elba, Caleb McLaughlin clearly trying to ratchet up his sort of star power. This is around the same time that Finn Wolfhard was in like a Ghostbusters movie, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I mean, he's, trying to step into the spotlight, trying to do something more serious. And Rachel and I definitely sat down with it. Yeah. Late in 2020 for sure. Because it came out like in the fall. Yeah, September. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I feel like I heard about it, but then just never went into it at all.
Yeah. So Concrete Cowboy starts out very straightforwardly. And I think that's a theme for me throughout the movie, which is that there's not a ton of subtext. There's not a lot of events that you're supposed to like really read into. You're like, okay, well, they're riding horses now. Oh, and now they are selling drugs. Oh, and they're back to riding horses.
There's not a lot of guesswork happening in this movie.
Yeah. And this is also back-to-back based on true story movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a fun
little
about that. Newsie.
Just making connections. So his mom, he gets in trouble at school for fighting. His mom then drives him from Detroit to Philadelphia.
It
directly.
Took me a few minutes to figure out those were the locations they were at. I was like, where are they going and where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Outside of just
Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Where are they going? Where are they coming from, Cotton Eye Joe?
They didn't say that they were in Detroit, though, did they? Like, that comes up later in the movie.
I would have to rewatch the beginning of it. For some reason, I thought they might have done, but I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe
I'm more
they
interested
didn't.
in the logistics of how she got him there that quickly. How long does it take to drive? Jeremy, this is a good producer question. How long does it take to drive from Detroit to Philadelphia? I'm going to say 11 hours. So what time did they leave? She goes to school to pick him up. So realistically, the earliest it could have been would be what, 10 a.m.? Is he out here getting in a fight in second period?
Yeah, Philadelphia.
And then she spends like an hour in the principal's office. She's already got his bags packed, so that's not a problem. They leave by 11.
Producer Jeremy says 8 hours and 37 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if they left by 11 or 12, I guess that's reasonable. Get him there in the evening.
Well, and probably late evening because it was dark and people were gone.
Yeah. Because if she went to the school at 3:00 and they left at 3:30 or 4, it's going to be midnight or so. And that first night, he has to like desperately try to find someone to talk to and stuff because.
And maybe it was a Friday night. So
right. That's true.
They were out late. I just forgot Idris Elba's name.
It's fine. You can just call me Idris Elba. I definitely only have it written down as Idris Elba. His Cole's name is Cole. Harp's boy. You Harp's boy. Love that. Mm-hmm. Also, it's very dark in the beginning. Like it's not brightly lit. And honestly, for a lot of it, is not very brightly lit.
And I have very mixed feelings about that whole concept because I want to be able to see what I'm watching.
Right.
But I also understand from an artistic choice that was made. Yeah. So I get that, but it does kind of annoy. It takes me out of the movie, actually, which is the complete opposite of what I think they want you to do.
Right. It's just when you're squinting and you're like literally trying to see what's going on, it's not helpful. I agree.
Yeah.
Because I mean, historically, movies have always had like unrealistic lighting, like back to Casablanca and, whatever classics you want to point to, Titanic, like Godfather, that it's not always exclusively like, oh, well, they're in a cave. Where could the light be coming from? Like, chill out. We're watching a movie.
Right. Agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I did like an early line when they first get into Harp's townhouse, apartment, brownstone. I don't know what you want to call it. And Caleb McLaughlin, Cole just goes, I ain't staying here. And Idris Elba looks at him. He's standing up on the stairs, just goes, I like, it's very odd that I don't even know if slow play is the right word. There's just like no bonding between the two of them. They don't even try to show that on screen. I'm a very outsider person to be even talking about this, but I can't imagine if your dad hasn't been around that long and you just get dropped off. Your mom is like, she's dropping you off because she doesn't know what to do with you. Right. And this is like a last resort for her. I can't even imagine from Harp's perspective. He knows he can't just befriend this kid. Like he's just as much as like puzzled of what to do with him as Cole is at being there. So I'm like, I don't even know how you would navigate that. Try to be like, okay, let's go. What do you like? What's your favorite color Gatorade? Let's go down and, even just something stupid. Like he doesn't even try at all. This is a horse. You sleep on the couch. See you tomorrow. It was what it was. It was very interesting to me. The horse being in the house, though, that's not a weird thing for anybody. It's not weird for me because I haven't seen a horse in a house, but I've seen a horse in a car before. So, a car? Yeah. Like a miniature. Like a van? Oh, a miniature, a little Sebastian situation. Gotcha. Okay. No, it's weird. They gloss over it pretty quickly, but a lot of it's weird. I mean, that's an intentional juxtaposition of the big city life, but also there's horses. Yeah, I'm like, interesting that your landlord's like cool with that when you have to pay a deposit to have a pet in your apartment around here. Like, I wonder, can't be more than 20 pounds. If he owns it or how that works, or they just don't tell him. When he exercises the pet horse. Yeah, you do not see him taking Chuck to the stable. Mm-mm. Yeah, until the end. Well, when Smush dies. Yeah. Spoiler alert. So what did you think of Caleb McLaughlin's acting in this movie as a whole, but also in the beginning? I felt like he didn't have a ton of dialogue. He was doing a lot of like facial emoting and acting. I mean, he annoyed me, so I think he did a good job. Okay, go off. No, did I write this down? Well, hold on. Let me look at my notes because there was a line that was said that I gotta get a more organized note taking system here, Jess. Maybe something that you can search by keywords. And I can, but I don't know. He says something. He's mouthing off to his mom, and he's like bossing her around, like he knows what he's talking about. And I'm just like, you don't know, kid. Like, yeah.
Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
So you're not saying his acting annoys you. You're saying the characters.
No. The character annoyed me. So I think he did a good job with the acting.
Right.
Because I was annoyed at him.
Yeah, you're like, he's realistically, I could see that he's a 15-year-old boy that's getting in fights at school and getting kicked out, or 16 or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, I don't want to be like, he's wrong all the time. He could be justified in some of the situations he's in, and circumstances just hit him in the wrong way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be like, oh, he's a bad kid, because I don't necessarily think that, but I would definitely say, like all kids, and me included, when I was a kid, just the cocky, like, you think you know everything and you don't know everything.
Yeah, he thinks he knows everything, and he and Smush think that they're going to live forever and nothing's ever going to go wrong. I mean, he's even more, when he's with Smush, he's the voice of reason. He's like, bro, like, this is too high stakes. Like, that guy knows, like, he's the one that's calling it out, and Smush is just being too aggressive.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know this kid from like 5 minutes when you were little, and you're best buds with him now? Yeah, they probably had a couple weeks together, or, when they were little or something, I'm sure. So there's part of me that's like, that's totally unrealistic. But then again, looking back on my own experiences, there are people that I spent time with as a kid that I think of fondly. Mm-hmm. But then there's the part of me that's like, well, Jessica, did you just like romanticize, not in like a romantic way, but like, did you build that up in your head?
Rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. And you think that those relationships were way better than they were. Like, and also then I have to remember, like, I'm not the same person that I was when I was a kid. They're probably not the same person they were when they were a kid. So I'm just looking at this whole relationship with him and Smush through those like filters in my head, thinking this is weird that they're just best buds doing illegal activities
immediately, so fast.
Yeah.
Smush sees that he's there, picks him up, and is like, you're coming with me to pick up drug money now. Like, that is immediately what's happening.
And now I got you back for life.
Yeah. Except for the multiple times that we're going to break it off and then restart selling drugs again, depending on how disenfranchised you are with the stables.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, I did have a note here before we go too far away from the fighting thing. I did say, like, something that the teacher, the principal said. Well, there was some kind of comment about maybe not having the type of resources that Cole needs or something like that. And I did write down, like, schools are just overloaded and teachers do not have the resources they need to be good teachers. And
especially inner city public schools. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even so much a teacher thing as like he needs direct intervention. Like, he needs to be working with a skills coach or therapist or something. Obviously he has to it's harder at the high school level. He has to buy into something like that. There needs to be a programming. Warsaw High School has programs like that for kids that are already just starting behind the 8 ball with their home life or whatever their situation is. And I mean, that's why I'm so frustrated by school voucher system stuff, where it's like, this is poaching. It's nakedly a ploy to defund public schools so that we can benefit donors. And I mean, if you're already sending your kid to a private school, then like, that's great. That's fine. Do whatever you want to do. But then you also want my public taxpayer money to send your kid to a private school. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's the opposite of capitalism. That's when it's something you can't afford. Because that money's coming out of the teachers' pockets. Teachers have to do you see those GoFundMes, like, to buy markers for their class and stuff. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So we've got these two parallel storylines, and I want to ask about that. Are they parallels? Because it'll cut between scenes of him and Smush riding in the car, boys in the city, picking up packets of money, and then it'll cut to he's scooping poop out of a horse stall. And I was trying to pick up, were you finding parallels between them? Were you seeing one storyline inform the other in any way?
I did not notice that.
Right. Thus, it's confusing. It's like a confusing way to handle it.
Yeah. I do think I was picking up that he got smarter with Smush the more he worked at the stables. Like, he became more...
Interesting.
What is the word? Not necessarily reserved, but more... informed.
Like cautious. Okay.
Yeah. Not that it helped.
Prudent.
But I think he started voicing that more.
Okay. All I was really picking up was he would go back to Smush whenever something would snap at the stables with his relationship with his dad, or an event that happened that would trigger him to run back to that lifestyle until there was a trigger with that one, and then he would come back.
He wasn't really finding his place in either scenario until more towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah. And largely for lack of wanting to settle down into either of them, I think.
I think that
he didn't want to fully commit.
Yeah. But I also think like he didn't feel like he was wanted at the stables necessarily. So I think he wanted that, but I felt like he didn't feel like he was welcomed.
Yeah. Because his dad was playing it so slow.
Yeah.
Like it took him forever to be allowed to ride one.
Which, by the way, I don't know that that's unrealistic.
Yeah, like a pay your dues kind of situation.
Yeah, for sure. And okay, get me my soapbox, but you're talking about living creatures.
Right.
And I did like, there was this one bit in there when they're talking about how people are saying they don't feed the horses well and they're starving and all that. Mm-hmm. And somebody's like, sometimes I don't even eat so that my horse can eat.
Yeah.
And people I know that love animals, that's not an unrealistic thought process.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I totally buy the whole, like, you got to pay your dues and you can't just, you can traumatize a horse. Just like
absolutely.
You can any animal.
Absolutely you can.
If you aren't doing it correctly. So you can't just expect to jump up on there.
Yeah, but counterpoint, like I've gone to summer camps and they just have the stables and every 2 hours they're running, you just hop up on the horse and then they follow the trail. Like you can ride a very domesticated horse.
It depends on the horse. Those horses are trained and handled and socialized for that kind of behavior.
Right.
But these horses at the stables that he's talking about, not all of them are like that.
More personalized. They're more bonded to individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Idris Elba does this thing a few times in this movie where Caleb McLaughlin will ask him a question and he will not answer it. He will just give a different speech. And you're trying to read into it like, is that answering these questions somehow? Like he'll ask him, so after he doesn't let him ride the horse, he's like, why do you hate me? And then he's like, when you were born, I named you after a jazz musician. And I was like, am I not smart enough for this movie? What's happening here?
I think that was his way of saying, I don't hate you.
Well, sure. But it would be more effective to
just say that.
Voice it in some way. I mean, this is a 16-year-old kid that got kicked out of school for fighting.
Yeah, I agree.
His ability to just grok metaphors immediately is, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not giving him enough credit.
It's impressive, but not really efficient.
Yes, it's definitely not efficient. I have some like ticky-tack issues as well. Like there's no food in his house. Like what are they eating all the time? Harp is a garbage collector, which is great. Every society needs those people in order to make the world go around. And that's fine. It's a respectable job. And then he comes back and then like they don't have food in the house. Certainly not cooking anything. You only see anyone eating like twice.
I did notice that, and I kind of wondered what was up, but then I just kind of figured maybe he's eating at the stables all the time. Like that's where the food is.
He's eating oats and carrots, apple slices.
Whatever he's eating there with everybody else.
They have a community fridge. I didn't get the
feeling that he spent a lot of time at home.
Yes, for sure.
Outside of just sleeping.
Mm-hmm,
like honestly, the part about the neighbor, gosh, I forgot her name.
Nessie,
yeah. Being home. That surprised me because during the rest of the movie, like she's just sitting out on her porch when Cole gets dropped off. But the rest of the movie, that is not where she is. Except for the one time he bangs on her door and she's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I got work.
Yeah.
But that's to be expected that she was sleeping. Every other time, they're all at the stables.
Yeah, and so maybe that's just what I'm missing, is that the movie's trying to show how much of a radical commitment this community makes in a way that I have no parallel for, like a truly extreme commitment to spending every waking moment of like free time and money on just this one passionate endeavor. Okay,
so draw the parallel where you will here. Real life story here. I did 4-H in my youth. You know what 4-H is?
I do know what 4-H is. I did it 1 year.
So we would go to the county fair, and I had dairy calf feeder steer, and I had chickens, and some of my friends had like the big beef cows and sheep, and I think a couple of my friends had pigs. Anyways, one of these years, actually a lot of the years, but a couple of the years that I'm really thinking of, we would go in the morning, get dropped off at like 8 a.m., feed our animals.
Or at the fair.
At the fair. Feed our animals, clean them up or whatever. And we literally stayed all day. We packed our lunch or whatever, or friends had coolers with pop in it, and we would go sit at their little stall and play cards. And so that, I guess, this whole concept of just being at the stables all the time did not seem far-fetched to me, because I did that kind of thing in 4-H, and it was just
you did it for a week at a time, though.
Well, that's true. But I mean, it still is something that I can say that makes sense to me. Whether I would be able to do it all the time, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's an extreme commitment.
Yeah. But it's part of who they are. So to them, it's probably not extreme.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just baked in. It's part of their lifeblood, I guess. Yeah. So do we have thoughts on the Smush storyline? I mean, they do tie it in where it's like, well, I was a cowboy. Like, I would actually like to go get a ranch and stuff. We just got to make this money.
So I loved that, because you kind of think going into it, until you find that out, you're like, what is he doing? He's just wanting to make some money. He's just trying to do something, but you don't really know what his end game is.
Yeah.
And he's put a lot of thought into this. He wants to buy a ranch, possibly flip said ranch, take the horses out there, and he wants to have a home. Because
he hasn't had that.
Right.
I mean, the stables are the stables, but they're barely stables, and they're not a real solid home for the people or the animals.
Right. And
in
he
like
knows
an ideal setting.
The other stables have been shut down. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Or that, I don't want to say the whole idea. That's definitely an idea, a concept that's happening, is that other stables shut down and people transplanted over to the Fletcher Street stables. And so he knows, he's lived through seeing that happen. He knows it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And he's looking forward to the future, which the whole time I'm watching this, I'm very conflicted, because I'm like, how is the city, like, these are like animals, like giant animals in the middle of the city. How are they okay with this? What is going on here?
What are the zoning regulations that are allowing them to do this? Yeah, so I was going to ask, did you feel like it was, so the horses get taken, obviously,
which
impounded, if you will.
Me super.
So you were irritated. So you didn't think that, you thought that they were overstepping.
I don't necessarily know about overstepping, but they're just going off somebody's words that these horses were underfed and that there's a dead one rotting in the stable somewhere. And it's like, hey, why don't you just inspect it? Ooh. Instead, you're just going to take the animals.
I, for some reason, did think that they were right, that there was a dead one and one on the back. Which I didn't understand why it was still there, because they have the wagon, like, that they clearly throw all the poop in and like take stuff out. So you thought that was just a pretense, that was made up?
Yeah. Or maybe it had happened and it took them a day or two to dispose of the body, because there's laws about that kind of disposal. But either way, I'm like, you just have to inspect the place. Like, yeah,
the horses weren't underfed and sickly and gross. They're like, yeah, you're right. We're getting reports of this, as opposed to like, okay, get your vet down here and take a look at it. I'm like, that's not the case. So I wonder if that was supposed to point more towards the, like, you know, the lobbyist and the pressure from the the corporatization, gentrification, those entities that are trying to get this real estate and they want to put skyscrapers there and all that stuff.
I think that's true. And one of the things I really did like about that is later on and I forgot his name, but the cop who was previously a stables guy was like
Method Man.
Yes, him. He's like, well, maybe everyone will remember we have actual murders to solve.
Yeah, he's like, let's give this a couple days. Yeah. I guess that's probably how those actual law enforcement entities think is in a huge city like that, there's only so much manpower and man hours that can go into dealing with a kind of small potatoes horse situation.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I've totally lost my train of thought, but no, it's not going to come back. Never mind.
Let's talk about acting. So we feel like Caleb McLaughlin did a good job. He got you to be annoyed. I felt like whatever emotions they were trying to elicit out of him, he was giving. He was doing the smush, like the nervous, like kind of in the background in those settings. He kissed the girl, like he started getting into the horse stuff.
By the way, I thought
he was good.
She's a real Fletcher Street Stables rider.
And so is Paris.
That was fun. So is Paris.
Yeah.
Which, I'm going to be honest, they did all right.
Yeah. You couldn't super tell that they were like, oh, these other guys are, internationally famous actors and you guys are
not actors at all.
Right.
Yeah. Which really is one of those things that kind of annoys me when they just pull somebody out of wherever and they're like, here, act in this movie. And then it's just not good. And you can totally tell. So I didn't know that they were real writers until the end of the film.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Idris Elba. So let's compare this to his role as the lawyer, Bryce Dallas Howard's lawyer in Molly's Game.
I love him. Whenever he's on screen, I just want to watch him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I did tell Rachel this. There's some scene.
You told me this.
Oh, did I tell you this?
Yeah.
There's some scene, and I don't remember which one it is, but he's dressed like he looks like he has this little pot belly kind of thing going on. And then you don't see that in the rest of the movie, which I just thought was so weird. I don't know if it's the way his shirt was hanging or something. But also my other point here is I have not seen him in a movie where he isn't in like peak physical condition either.
Yeah.
So, I just thought that was kind of funny because I'm like, okay, you got like, you're rocking a dad bod in this movie?
He was trying
That's
to dad
cool.
bod, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was good. If his goal was to come off as aloof, doesn't really know, clearly has feelings and doesn't really know how to express them and to manage that with this estranged son that gets dropped off on his doorstep. It's frustrating as people that try to be emotionally intelligent to watch that struggle and just the fits and starts, not even starts. Just the agonizing, like, reach out to him, like do something with him. Like you guys should be closer together. But like you said, it's not totally unrealistic.
How did you feel about him when is it Boo, the horse gets out?
Yeah.
And he's like, Cole's freaking out, or he's not freaking out. They're trying to get him back in and he's like, go get your horse, which I'm like, so many things, by the way, so many things. But anyways, go get your horse. And he's like wigging out because he can't, the horse is stressed. Horses all animals do, right? Am I right? They pick up on your emotions.
Yeah, right.
So
not cats.
Already the horse, cats are like, I reject your emotions.
Right.
Feel my fury.
I'm the only one that has emotions.
Now all I can think of are these cats that I know that are evil. I totally lost it. Oh, they pick up on your emotions.
They're trying to get Boo.
Yeah, he's all heightened in awareness anyways. And you're asking this kid to like go hook the lead on the halter.
And you know how big of a moment it is for the kid too.
Yeah. And he's never really been around horses. So you're asking him to trust his instincts, which who knows what those are. We didn't really get to see them build up as much as I would have liked to have seen. But okay, whatever. He gets spooked. He falls on the ground. And Harp's like, come on now. And he's like, why do you hate me? Why are you being so mean to me? And I really appreciated and I don't understand why I appreciated it, but he says, this isn't about you and me right now. Because I feel like in life, you can be upset about things and you start reading into all of these circumstances that make it about you. And realistically, that other person they're not even thinking about you. That happens more often than not. So
this isn't a metaphor, bro. We have to get this horse.
Yeah.
Because these people live lives that are so day-to-day practicality based.
Yeah.
We have to shovel out this stall. We have to pay the rent so that the horses don't get taken. We have to go buy feed.
Yeah, they're trying to survive, and their horses survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked that scene and I appreciated it, even though I don't know about asking him to do that without having a little bit more experience with horses. Yeah.
Well, so the experience with horses thing, that was a point I wanted to get to, which is I've rarely seen a movie, the phrase like off the page, off screen, like you're supposed to assume that there's some sort of development that are happening off screen. I got that impression so little.
Yeah.
So little.
With this movie.
You could convince me that their goal was to make you think this was like 10 days in the life of Caleb McLaughlin. Like it was just like you go to bed, wake up, this is the next thing that's happening.
I'm just saying we don't think that happened because there was no montage.
Yeah, give me a montage. I could have definitely done with him falling off the horse twice. He stays on it a little longer the third time. Harp pulls down his hat at him.
And then you're now
is
he
that
knows
just
how
me
to
being
be
a
around
sucker
horses.
for movie making? Like, am I being a baby that needs my hand held to get through this movie? I don't know. I'm not saying it's like a terrible thing,
I think
but it is a weird thing.
Trained us to expect the time lapse of a montage if we want to see growth. Maybe not every single movie, but that's a surefire way I know that there's.
Yes, it is a way to do it. Because otherwise, I don't know what it is about this film that I was convinced that he never went to the grocery. Like they never I'm like, is Caleb McLaughlin drinking enough water? I'm not seeing him drink the water. I don't believe it's happening off screen. I don't know if there's some other movie making device.
It was definitely a choice that they did to not. I didn't buy that either. Like if it didn't happen on screen, I don't think it happened.
And as you think about it, you're like, I've not seen a movie where that was that true to this extent.
I'm going to be evaluating movies going forward with that.
Right.
I'm going to be thinking about that.
Not. I mean, there's lots of movies that don't have montages. It's not like it's just the absence of a montage. Every movie needs to have a montage, or else I don't think things are happening off screen. It's a vibe. Like it's how it's being filmed and how it's being cut in some way.
And the dialogue that was like, yeah, I did this yesterday. Yeah. Even though I didn't see you do it yesterday, you just told me you did it yesterday.
Yeah.
So we didn't see him do anything with.
It's changes of clothes, maybe. Cole didn't have very many different changes of clothes.
Yeah.
It just felt, it was either a little off or it was so hyper realistic that it just like messed with my mind. Like an in media res. Like I just couldn't, I don't know.
Yeah, that was for sure a thing.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room here. Any listener that's already heard the Django Unchained episode is wondering, how did I feel about the horses' performance as actors? Right? We now have 2 movies in which horses have acted. And let's be really clear. This isn't a competition. The horses in Django Unchained are better actors than the horses in Concrete Cowboy.
I didn't see any horses bow in Concrete Cowboy.
No, there's none of that. Frankly, I could have used more horses in Concrete Cowboy. Not total number. I could have used more horse screen time.
Yeah.
There was not that much horseback riding. They did one race. They did them getting them out of the
impound cages.
Impound scene. All the horseback riding was all explicitly to move the plot forward, right? Yeah. It's either we're getting Paris on the horse and that's him realizing that he's a father figure to everyone but him.
By the way, I liked that scene too.
You did like that scene? Yeah. I mean, that's, we didn't get a montage, but we did get paralyzed man that we put in a special saddle. Like you could almost see it coming, right? Because like, why else do you have that guy in a wheelchair at a horse at a stable situation? We had that. We had them riding them back from impound,
and then the memorial ride. Yeah.
But there wasn't just any miscellaneous learning how to ride. People are just riding around in the background of them talking, any of that.
Yeah. Agreed.
So do people that have horses not ride horses as much as I'm thinking they would?
People that have horses take care of horses way more than they ride them. Personal opinion based on experience, because my brother at one time had 5 horses.
And didn't ride them.
5. Well, he did ride them, but then he got into an accident and couldn't ride them as much as he wanted to. And then some horses just aren't really very rider friendly.
Sure.
And like there's all these things, but you definitely take care of them more than you ride them, I think, because that's just what I know. But
I get that.
I'm not saying that you don't ride them either. I'm saying probably their responsibilities at the stables kept them from riding them as much as maybe they would have wanted. Also, they're in the middle of the city. They probably they either have to go someplace in particular to ride them, or they have to like carve out. Let me recheck that. I don't know if they're in the middle of the city, but they are in a city. So
I think they're in the middle of it because they're like 2 blocks that way. There's all these condos.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not like they can just.
See, I disagree. If you make me a movie, it's called Concrete Cowboy and it's about this inner city. Can I get some people in cowboy gear or not in cowboy gear, but riding horses like through time, like a Times Square equivalent, like down a street with cars and stuff? There'd be Amish people in their buggies here in Warsaw.
I mean, maybe they can, and that's just not part of what we were supposed to see because we were supposed to see the stable situation. I just
wanted more horseback
riding. Yeah.
Because that's how a horse is endearing itself to me as a viewer, my Rogge. Maybe that's not how it works for everyone. But when you're riding a horse, I'm like, wow, that is a strong and hardworking large dog. That's how you connect to me, is because of how big this dog is, and it's working hard and it's doing a good job. And if you're not riding the horse, now it's just like a really big, it's just a really big, like not dog. Like dogs love on you more than horses do. And so that's how I can tell that it's a dog. And the horse isn't emoting in a way. If it's just being brushed, it can nuzzle. You can like put your forehead up against a horse or something. But they weren't doing that. It just, they didn't endear themselves to me. They didn't get enough opportunity to do that in a way that made me emotionally connect with their horsiness. Yeah,
I don't disagree with you, but I liked them. But the Django Unchained horses were better.
Yeah, they weren't stars. So do you have any stories about like getting kicked by a horse or anything?
Oh, yes. Did I ever tell you the story actually, or do you?
I think Jeremy might have mentioned it to me.
Okay, so I don't remember the year, but it was quite a long time ago. In my youth, we had a horse. And my cousin and I went out to just pet him.
Yeah.
And he came up and it was really great. You know, you rub his nose and his head and
did you feed him apple chunks? Ears.
I didn't. Not that time. I didn't.
Sugar cubes.
I didn't feed him anything at that time.
Okay. Well, that's why he kicked you. So
that's why he kicked me. No, he was feeling his little Wheaties, as they like to say. And this particular horse would do this thing where if he was like turning really quickly and getting ready to run, he would kick his back feet up.
Okay.
So this was like a classic wrong place, wrong time kind of situation. I was petting him and then I let his halter go and he turned to go and just wham, kicked me. And I had glasses. So my glasses broke and the glass and the frame cut my nose.
What?
And so if I scrunch up my nose, which you cannot see because this is a podcast and not a video podcast or whatever, you could take the flap on my nose of skin and just open it up and see all the way to the bone.
Like right now?
No. Right after it happened.
Right after it happened. Okay. I thought you were saying if I scrunch up my nose, like still to this day.
If I scrunch up my nose, you can see like the lines. It's like a little J. Yeah. And you can see where you could have pulled the flap of the skin open.
Wow. He kicked you. You got kicked by a horse in the face.
In the face. Which
that explains a lot.
It was, thanks, Rogge. It was just at the right angle, though, that the glasses did the damage. If he had kicked me straight on, it would have just died. I would have died.
You would have, probably.
Yeah. So the the glasses did that. And then I passed out, which for the longest time, I didn't think I passed out, but I passed out and my cousin carried me up the yard just a little bit.
Yeah.
And of course, when I come to, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, because I'm passed out. He's carrying me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? I like put me down. And I'm like walking up to the house with blood gushing out of my face.
Yeah.
And my dad is in the garage and they're like, what? And somebody grabs towels. They put them on my nose. We get in the car and
towel face.
Yeah. Seriously, like just all over my face. We get in the car. I think my brother was driving and my dad was holding the towels, or vice versa. I don't remember which. And we are driving so fast to the hospital where I proceed to wait in the emergency room. I don't remember how long, but I think it was kind of a long time. And then they have like the ear, nose, and throat specialist come check me out, put me on an operating table. And apparently, the way my brother tells it, there's like a 4-inch needle of anesthesia that they put in, like jam into my face.
Yeah, like your sinuses.
Yeah. And then he stitches me up with 41 stitches. And this is what I remember. I'm pretty sure I remember holding my brother's hand, squeezing it, right? Because I'm not so much feeling pain, but I'm very, very nervous and anxious about what is happening. And
it's a weird spot.
Yeah. And I hear the doctor say, is this table sinking or is it just me? So
what?
The gurney or the operating table that I am on, like, is literally just slowly sliding down.
Because it's like a scissor lift situation and they hadn't like locked it in place, or?
I don't know if it was that or if it was like the air, the hydraulics.
Yeah.
And they just, like, it just wasn't saying. It was
pressurized.
It was slowly sliding down. And so that was I remember that very specifically. And then I remember being woken up every 2 hours that night.
For the concussion testing.
Yep. And I remember my eye was all completely swollen shut. The one eye was, and the other eye was like completely black and blue all around it. And I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, oh my gosh, I have a J on my nose. How fun is that?
That is fun. I also have a J-shaped scar. A large one on my wrist.
We're bonding.
Hashtag twinning.
Woo woo. That's the only way we'll ever be able to do that.
Yeah, because there's no bonding. Whimsy, we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Lord of the Rings.
I was talking about like in appearance, we are very different.
It's like a Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
It's like a situation. Yeah. Do we feel like it was realistic how many times Cole left and then got back with the smush situation? Also, did you see it coming that they were going to get caught and they were going to get in trouble? And
I saw it coming that they were going to get caught. I did not see it coming that Smush was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Also, can we just say, what are you wearing white tennis shoes for if you're going to work around animals of any kind? Obviously, you don't know.
That's how young and immature he is, which is, I just got these new shoes. They're so cool. I'm going to wear them all the time.
Or
that's
he was like,
brain.
I don't have cool stuff. And if I leave it somewhere, somebody might take it.
Oh, ooh, okay. Yeah. I can see that.
So sure. The first time I thought of it, I was like, you're so dumb because those shoes are going to get ruined. And then the second time I saw it, I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't want to leave them somewhere because he's afraid. Like he doesn't feel very, like you just said, secure anywhere, and he doesn't want somebody to take them. So
that makes more sense. I like yours better.
And then when the shoes came up again later at the party, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And that's what made me think they're going to get caught somehow. Something bad's going to happen here. I just did not think it was going to be Smush dying.
Yeah, that guy wasn't trying to not be scary. Like,
right. I didn't like that part. Smush dying.
It was scary and bad. Smush died and it was bad. The actor was pretty good, but he came on a little strong. It was a little bit like we're brothers for life, best friends. And then immediately like, oh, you're going to betray me. I hate you forever. Like it could have been a little more nuanced for me, but I thought he generally did a good job.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do have a beef.
Yes, please. I was going to ask if we had any more commentary.
I don't like how at the end they are going to tear down the stables. I'm assuming they're tearing it down.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
They don't let anybody in to get any of their stuff.
That's wild. Yeah.
Like, they don't show us getting any of their stuff. They just show them shutting the door and like putting a lock on the door. And I'm like, there's all kinds of equipment in there and you're not going to let them get like that is equipment costs money.
Yeah. Wheelbarrows ain't free.
Well, neither are like halters and lead ropes and just all of that stuff. Like it's not cheap. Horses are not a cheap hobby.
Mm-mm.
I mean, technically, I guess any hobby could be expensive, but horses are expensive.
Yeah, there's a couple of those like very much like realism, like technicality having to do with like justice system or like official laws and things that it was like they almost were glossing over them. Like that wasn't what they were trying to get across. It was more about the heart of the stables and stuff. Whereas it's like, well, wouldn't you have to like give notice if you were going to do something? You'd have to do a couple, official written warnings about the horses being underfed before you just take them. Which
again, they could have done with dialogue and I would have been fine. Yeah. They could have said they did it, had a conversation about it. That would have been great.
I would have liked them going to a tense weigh-in where it's like they weigh the horse and then like, okay, he needs to gain 7 pounds by next week. And they go to another one. They're like, oh man, I hope he gained enough weight. And then it's like, oh, wow, he did it. Like something like that.
Yeah. I'm also going to say, and I may be out of left field here. I do have to talk to my brother about this, but standing on a horse is just like, that's a thing that we do. That's a thing that cowboys do.
They're really good at it.
Like if they're not trick riders or something, you just be standing on a horse.
Well, the horse wasn't moving.
I mean, I know, but I don't know what point, unless you're trying to get a really great apple out of a really tall tree. I don't know why you're standing on a horse.
No, it's to be cool.
They're all about practicality except for that part.
I mean, that's not costing you anything. It's like it's another way. Honestly, it's using every part of the buffalo. Like what's another cool thing we can do that involves a horse? They should have gotten into dressage. Can I get a horse jumping some like surprisingly low bars? Come on.
They could have done a lot of stuff. It's just you standing on a horse was something that I just thought was like thrown in there for it was like a weird thing to be thrown in, I think.
It's almost struck me as we've run out of budget for this movie to do any like horse tricks, but it doesn't cost us anything if you stand on the horse. Or maybe it's just what they did. And like, well, I guess we got to put them standing on the horse.
It is something I do have to do further research on.
So would you watch Concrete Cowboy again?
No.
So did you like it?
I did like it. And I do want to point out there was the whole conversation around the fire about Black cowboys.
Yes.
And I want to say, again, as somebody who watched a lot of Westerns at one period of, not necessarily because I wanted to, but I have seen a lot of Westerns in a certain period of time. There are not a lot of Black cowboys shown.
No.
So I do want to point out that this movie was not my first introduction to how Black cowboys maybe have been written out of common history, if you will, if that's the way we want to say it. But there's a TV show called Timeless that was on around 2016. They go back in time. There's a lady historian, and she makes mention that they have to find somebody to help them find this outlaw that has gone back in time. And she's going to use she's going to go find the guy who inspired the Lone Ranger, who is a Black cowboy. And she talks a little bit about how he was a Black cowboy and that there are Black cowboys. And so that was my first like, hey, this is a thing and it's happening. And then this movie, okay, that's a thing and it's happening. And so I appreciate that from the movie. And I think it's a good thing to maybe see once and get this perspective of maybe life that I don't have. So like, I appreciate it from that standpoint. And I just wanted to kind of point that out. But I don't necessarily know that I would watch it again.
This is my second time watching it. There's no like big laughs you're coming back to. And there's no like really heartwarming moments that I'm like, oh, I could see myself wanting to build back up to that again. I feel like I've done it and I've seen it. I don't regret watching it, but I'm not excited about watching it again.
For sure.
So I agree.
My big thing about this movie is I did look up the Fletcher Street Club on Instagram. And I do follow them now.
Nice.
I feel like we'll put it in the show notes, their Instagram handle, because I did like that piece of the concept. Smart. Like they're still going. They're still, doing the thing that they do, which I appreciate. And the idea, right, this is not a new idea of giving kids something to do that keeps them out of trouble. Like, that's a thing. And it's just, this particular group is using horses to do that. So I think that's cool.
It is cool. And it's normally, like you said, such an expensive hobby and stuff.
Yeah. And we did go to Philadelphia last year, and I didn't hear anything about this. And we did tours and everything too. So I'm a little like, how did we miss this?
The tours are racist.
I'm just saying. So we might have to go check it out if we go to Philadelphia again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be fun.
Now, I would be down for Concrete Cowboy 2, 2 Concrete 2 Cowboy. Like if they were to do a follow-up with Idris Elba and Caleb McLaughlin, but it's them like pitching tents and lighting fires in the street and being cowboys and saying, get along, little doggy, and wearing cowboy hats, and they're riding horses a bunch more, maybe lassoing something.
Yeah.
If they were cowboy-ear, like lassoing a fire hydrant or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would watch a sequel.
I felt really conflicted because in one hand, I'm like, I want them to move to a place where they can take their horses and they can do the things that they like to do. But that's not really what the movie's about. The movie's about the culture of being in the city.
Urban. Yeah, that's not what they want.
Yeah. So I felt really conflicted because I'm like, go where people can't bother you. But then I'm also like, but this is who you are. You should get to be who you are. Yeah,
they like living in the city and they like horsing.
Horses. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you have thoughts about Concrete Cowboy, listener, if you have been to the correct non-racist tour guide situation in urban Philadelphia, or if you've been kicked in the head/face by a horse or in 4-H, please let us know. Get in touch with us on Instagram at FlabberPod. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Let us know. Let your friends know that we back up, that FlabberPod is here. Not enough. If I'm being honest, I feel disappointed in myself for not enough Stranger Things references to this point in the show. So let us know how I could have done better at that. We'd love to hear from you. You'll be hearing from us again next time.
Bye.
Bye.